Greetings and welcome to episode 5 of the Bobby Z Show. So I'm going to start by inviting anyone that likes what I do on this channel, anyone that enjoys the Bobby Z Show and wants to support. There are a couple of very simple ways you can do it. If you want to just hit the thumbs up button, that, as far as I know, is somehow beneficial. If you want to subscribe to the channel, if you're not already, sharing over on social media. I have put a tweet out. If anyone wants to go over and just hit the retweet button, it would be good to stretch out my audience. At the end of the last episode, I did touch upon Prince Harry wearing his Spider-Man outfit. It's going to set the theme of today's episode because we can hear him talk his rubbish again, and then we'll look a bit closer at it and some of my thoughts on it. Who knows who it is? It's some guy wearing a Spider-Man outfit. I am of the opinion that an awful lot of what we see about Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, all the children could be CGI. They could easily use CGI for these things. Yeah, this is apparently a message to bereaved children. Bear in mind, this video that we're watching now, the resolution of it is 1280 by 1280, which is pretty high res. Look how absolutely awful this picture quality is. I've got phones from 10 years ago, which if I took a video and they came out as rubbish quality as this video did, I would be chucking it in the bin. I'd be saying, why am I using this absolute piece of garbage? But let's hear what he says.
Hey Scotty Little Soldiers, welcome to the Christmas...
Scotty's Little Soldiers, that's the name of this club that Harry is some sort of patron of. Do you remember that Well Child or some charity they've set up to probably, well, they don't pay taxes, so they don't have to worry about dodging taxes. For one reason or another, Harry once attended, he gave a talk, his auto cue broke down and the press reported it as an emotional breakdown. It wasn't, it was a mechanical breakdown, but whatever.
Party. I hope you guys got some rest before tonight's excitement. I hear from Sharky and George there are 5 villains that you guys need to stop from ruining Christmas. So, use your teamwork, your brains and your brawn.
5 villains that are going to ruin Christmas. Bear in mind, when you think of Harry, how big his ears are, how high up his forehead generally is, whoever's wearing this suit doesn't cover it. And what it reminds me of, have you ever seen people where they wear these like blue suits and they have little sensors on them? They can put it into computer games. They can animate these people based on these suits.
So make sure that you do exactly that. Find them and don't let them ruin Christmas, okay?
Absolutely bizarre the reason Sky News would even broadcast this. Isn't this some personal message to the kids that have attended Scotty's Little Soldiers, whatever that is? No way I'd let a child attend Scotty's Little Soldiers, but whatever. But they're bereaved, aren't they? So some of them may be vulnerable and not have parents who can protect them from people like this.
At the same time, Christmas is a time when we miss our loved ones really, really bad.
So it sounds like he's given these kids instructions about finding villains, probably some really half-assed terrible game that they force these poor kids to play, probably about as complicated as pass the parcel. This is of course an opportune moment for Harry to be an authority on who is allowed to feel grief or not, because of course in a very high profile way he lost his mum, and of course he got right in front of the cameras as a child just to make sure everyone knew it.
And that's okay, but at the same time it can be possible to feel guilty for having fun without our parents. But I'm here to assure you...
How bizarre is this? What a weird message to give bereaved children dressed as Spider-Man. The reason I think they've got him dressed as Spider-Man, we'll see at the end.
Parents always want us to have fun, okay? So don't feel guilty. You're allowed to have the best time ever, especially with this Scotty Little Soldiers.
I don't think many people have the best time ever at Scotty's Little Soldiers, but I've never been. Let's not be so pessimistic and so critical.
So go out there, have the best time, and...
CGI. This is the first time in this whole 52-second clip. Where's his ears gone? They've just suddenly vanished on this little bit, have they? No ears whatsoever. The use of a Spider-Man suit simply means that they don't have to animate too much of him, and they only have to have him on screen for like 3 seconds. Mudlark mentions when he burst out laughing and Gabby Roslin had to make it seem like he was crying by putting his arm around him. You're absolutely right. Was it called Well Child? There is a video up on my channel about it. They had their Netflix program come out recently. I'm not sure how many episodes are up. I don't know if I could genuinely sit through watching it. I think if I did, I would have to do it. It would be done in a very critical way. Of course, I can't put it on a live stream and play it along like I do a piece from Sky News, because that would have been taken down instantly for copyright. Look at Harry's finger just there. In my opinion, they've messed up the hands. That is the one thing they seem to get wrong. There's 2 things that when they do CGI, they all get wrong. And that is the hands and the ears, and also the colour, of course. course sometimes. I have put Harry's picture in GIMP, graphic image manipulation program, to mess with the levels to see if you can see any artifact, but to be honest, just looking at that hand there, something's not right about it. Going back to the Netflix documentary, actually, Netflix were fuming about the doc. In the trailer that we did watch, I think it was episode 3, they had used some images from a Harry Potter premiere, and they had taken the crowd from that, used it in the preview of the Netflix program. Didn't go down too well. I can't comment too much on the Netflix series. Who do you think made that documentary? Was it a independent film crew, or was it an in-house production company that seemed to provide all images of them? I think they're called Archwell. Oh, did you know Harry and Meghan have a shared signature? They only need one of them to write it. The same people that create this website, take all the pictures of Harry and Meghan, also happen to be the company that made that Netflix documentary. Someone else that supposedly had a child. I've made plenty of videos on him before. People say, why would they fake any of these pictures? Believe it's just a practice. Once they cut their teeth. Speaking of cutting their teeth, look how fake this guy's teeth are. The reason I'm covering Jake Quickenden, not because I've got anything against him personally, if him is a real person. If I look at those teeth, I automatically question it. But whenever I do a search on Instagram, his images just seem to come up. He has actually contacted me on Twitter and told me I was insane, as did like 1 million of his admirers, telling me I need to get help and stuff. They give away what they're doing. If you watch this one, a lot of people said, these are their personal pictures of their children. How dare you scrutinize them? Hang on. This moron is putting these images up on his public Instagram account. These are a production. As much as when he advertises I'm a celebrity or whatever other program he advertises, this clip of the child sticking his tongue out, we are going to actually have a closer look at this, because I agree. The CGI on it is really good. Although they often have the children with either wet hair or their hair's tied up, it's very rigid so that they don't have to individually animate each strand of hair. Remember what I said, ears, look at his ear and look at his finger, but we're going to go back to that in a minute. He starts sticking his tongue out. Earlier on Jake Quickenden's timeline, pretty much tell us how they did it. By the way, sticking the tongue out, of course, is a sign of mockery. I don't know whether the older child is photoshopped, who knows, CGI'd. What they're using now is a filter that you get for free on smartphones or with certain apps. Yeah, that's just animated, and it happens to be, that's the cheap crappy version, and what they did with the baby is actually using animators to do that one. As I said, it looks brilliant, looks really good until you scrutinize it. We're gonna zoom in on a particular part of this child, the hands. Look at the little finger that comes out from under the cloak. Of course, we could also scrutinize the ears. They always go at a funny angle. The index finger, look how minuscule it suddenly becomes. Mr. Baby Finger. Of course, they don't think you're going to be looking at things like the hands, so while they're animating this, they're not too fussed whether you see that or not. I will say, people might think, oh, it's a bit harsh targeting a child and saying he's not real. Isn't that mean? What if you're wrong? Well, the existence of this child instantly proves me wrong, because I'm saying, for one thing, there's no way this woman has given birth to a child. Promoting a makeup designer, the best about this is like theatrical makeup. If you're not familiar with how good CGI overlays are, the program is on BBC iPlayer at the minute. It's something about alcoholic. Back in the old days, they used to maybe blur people's faces. They don't do it that way anymore. Faces have been digitally altered. It's not even using his real face, and the picture quality is a lot better than you see on Prince Harry's videos, Jake Quickenden's videos. They've digitally altered these faces. That's what they can do now with CGI. Is it really that far-fetched to think that all these commercial channels over on Instagram are legitimate? Because I struggle with that one. This guy's wife is supposedly called Charlotte Churt. Her shoulder to hip ratio. They put some pretty explicit videos up of each other. They have no problem undressing for the cameras, that's for sure. Suspect AF, you could say. I mean, I could scrutinize in great detail this guy's videos. He's no worse than, hundreds of other Instagram accounts. In fact, what they can do with CGI and makeup on Instagram of celebrities showing off their new babies and stuff. Rubber doll-like ears. on that baby much? By the way, do you use WhatsApp? Apparently, it's going to be shut down. Now, this is one of those double-edged stories where on the one hand, it makes it appear like WhatsApp must be a really secure company. Right, can you imagine life like WhatsApp? If you're based in the UK, you might have to, as the head of servicing at Meta has suggested he would rather see the smartphone app blocked for British users than to have its security weakened. Do you really trust WhatsApp when they tell you that end-to-end encryption and no one can possibly see your messages? Apparently the government want a way in. I remember they did a story once where Apple refused to let the American government hack the iPhone in order to investigate a terror suspect, but Apple was so passionate about their security. Yeah, right. How do you think WhatsApp even make money? It certainly isn't by providing you an absolutely free messaging service that doesn't have any advertisement. 2 billion users worldwide, they've got access to all those messages, but we're supposed to believe they lock them away. It's to do with a bill that might be coming up in Britain. Molly Russell and Ollie Stevens' parents have expressed their discontent with the postponement of the online safety bill. What that means is, of course, safety, your privacy. If they're not already doing it, then by the sounds of it, it will be legal for the government to have access to people's personal messages. One step further from that is just to say, well, why don't we just bug everyone's home so we can listen to people that we think we're suspicious of? Why don't we just stick microphones, cameras in their home? I'm curious who Molly Russell and Ollie Stevens were. A 14-year-old who died from self-harm speaks out. A friend of a 14-year-old. Loopholes leaving children exposed to self-harm. Of course, if the government had access to all your private conversations, things like this wouldn't happen. They're talking about the removal of legal but harmful content or offensive material that does not constitute a criminal offence. I don't know who owns the copyright on this image. In fact, what's the betting? It's AP, that's Associated Press. Same image being used over and over again. PA, pictures from PA. What a surprise. How do they always end up getting these images of every kind of murder victim always gets sold to PA? If you're unfortunate enough to lose a family member, you phone the police and say, I think my loved one has been murdered. And they say, right, have you got any pictures of him? Yeah, well, can we sell them to PA? We've looked them up before. They always seem to own all the images. We are actually going to be finishing up after we just look at this last story about this might be something we look at in more detail next week, actually. Apparently they've lost custody of their ill baby after refusing to accept horrible story. Anti-vax New Zealand parents, because of course that's all you need to know about these people to understand that anything happens to them is fully justified because they're anti-vax with a double X. New Zealand parents lose custody of their critically ill baby after refusing to accept blood transfusions from vaccinated donors ahead of the child's heart surgery. Auckland High Court ordered 4-month-old baby to be placed under partial guardianship, allowing an urgent operation to correct a heart disorder to go ahead. The baby's parents had blocked the procedure because potential blood donors may have been vaccinated. Why don't you just say, I don't want to accept blood, whether it's got mRNA or not? A blood transfusion is based on the teachings of the Holy Scriptures. Stay away from blood. That's what it tells you. And I believe blood transfusions absolutely are part of that. I am going to bring the Bobby Z show to a close. I will just let you know a couple of places you can find me. Over on Twitter, I am over on Instagram. Some of the places you can find my work, it is in the description. I'm also going to thank my Patreon, Linda Mack, for her continued support. Let you guys know if anyone wants to see what I do on Patreon, you can support me that way as you can by hitting the thumbs up button, subscribing if you're not already, and sharing this over on social media. Night all. Goodbye.